that.
Sorry.
And so behavior, how you maintain friendships, these are all important aspects. So finally, what? So I'm going to take you through kind of 3 stages and just talk to you like giving you the topics and the way I would be speaking to little ones at primary school. And trust me, it's really challenging and fun to speak to primary schoolers, because remember, no filters. So question time is always extremely interesting. Anyway, body, what pointers, and please ask me questions. I'm going to give you some really important concepts around body that your children, you need to talk to your kids about. The first and most important concept, which is sad that we even need to talk about, is that God creates them clearly male or female. Yes, you're thinking to yourself maybe, but my 2 and 3-year-old? Yes, because there are preschools, and you live in Victoria, but it's happening everywhere in Australia and all over the world. I mean, I'm on Twitter in the mornings, and there's always things about a school in Canada, school in UK, school in US, where preschoolers and primary schoolers are being told that, you're being assigned, the word being assigned as male or female was a decision that the doctor and your parents took. Only you know who you are. And therefore, you can decide who you are. You are not with what's between your legs. You are whatever you think or you feel you are. And again, a quick anecdote. I had someone tell me about a child in primary school who was exposed to this. Parents hadn't talked about God's good creation, male and female. And there's, of course, the biology that underpins it, that male-female development. This little girl comes home one day crying and says, "Can you take me to the doctor? I want to find out if I am really a girl, because I learned in school that I may not be a girl. I can choose who I want to be." So you got to be the first. You see, there's biology. Sex is determined when sperm and ovum meet. My mother's there, when your ovum was just sitting there, just waiting. And that sperm, those millions of sperm, and one lucky guy met and went, woohoo, made it. And that moment, the sex of your baby was determined. And your children need to know that sex is determined at that point when sperm and ovum meet. Now, you don't have to get into the nitty-gritty of biology, but just for them to know. And this is, of course, clearly underpinned by the word of God. Psalm 139, King David says, "You, God, knit me in my mother's womb." When I speak to primary schoolers or even high schoolers, I say, "Mommy and Daddy were not knitting." They were having great sex. Now go home and have a talk over dinner with this. So the reality is that they need to know that they are boy or girl. Now, in about 0.02, there can be disorders of development, and your children are going to be taught that just because there is this rare disorder, which is called intersex, that means sex is not binary and it's a spectrum. Wrong, wrong, wrong. You need to tell them the truth. This needs to be done really early. Then they move into their tween years. I mean, 5, not even tween, earlier. Getting into primary school, they're teenagers. You know what the message they're going to hear? They're going to hear the same thing that I said earlier. Your body was only assigned male or female. You can decide whether what you are, girl or boy or something else. And then, depending on the behavior, they are encouraged to choose their sex. Now, let me repeat this. We have always had Tomboys, hey, I was a tomboy. I was growing up in the tea plantation. I did not want to be in the kitchen cooking. I wanted to be out there climbing trees and having fun with my brothers. And my mother would, I even used to tell my mother, I hate being a girl. I want to be a boy. I want to do boy things. Now here it is. I want to do boy things does not make me a boy. I hope you get that. If you have questions, please ask me. I repeat, a boy wanting to do girl things, whatever the cultural stereotype is. Here we have the girl dancing, ballet, and the boy who wants to do ballet doesn't make him a girl. The girl who wants to play soccer, like the lower picture, is stereotypically doing a boy activity. Doesn't make her a boy. Your children will be told, and note, I'm not saying may be told, will be told that if you are a boy who behaves like a girl, then you are a girl, and vice versa. You have to make this distinction that they can play the way they want. Even if a child, wants to grow, a boy wants to grow his hair a little long, you can length of your hair or what they want to play or even how they feel about themselves, like I was, they're going to grow out of it. About 90% of kids grow out of that wanting to be the other sex like me. So you are the one who needs to do that. And part of it, and I think as a church, we need to be aware of this too, to be loose with your stereotypes. The Bible gives us clear examples. When I'm talking to young people, I say there was a young man in the Bible who used to play the harp and sometimes even danced with the girls. And his bestie was another guy. But he went out and fought and brought Philistine foreskins. King David, of course. Today he would probably have been called transgender. So he gives them role models, Deborah, Esther, strong women. It is okay, but you have to give them that. Because when they get into puberty, the culture today says, if you don't like what's happening in your body, we have the answer. And the answer is that maybe you shouldn't be in that body. And if you are a girl who doesn't like your breasts, or you are a guy who doesn't like what's happening down there, or, just generally your body, then you should or probably are the other sex. So a girl who doesn't like the breasts, and let's face it, or menstruation, and she especially gets online. She gets online and starts talking about it. She gets immediately channeled into transgender groups who support her and say, you're a boy. Let's teach you how to bind your breasts. My dear brothers and sisters in Christ, we need to, from the time kids are very little, talk about puberty as a positive thing, as a good thing. When I speak to primary schoolers, I talk about being little people. And we draw stick figures and I point to the teachers and I say, here are the big people. And what happens to move little people to big people? And then we talk about all the secondary sexual characters of puberty. See, puberty is good and you need to reinforce that. So it's really important that we do that. I want to move on. Okay, so we've talked about the body. Another extremely important issue or category of discussion is, where do kids today find an identity? The questions of, who am I? Who says who I am? There was a time when we were all, like we're talking, like when it says there was a time, I'm 75 now, but you are all much younger. But even when you were younger, you were willing to accept an identity given by parents, culture, church, and even God. You allowed that external to determine your identity. Your children are growing up in a world where they are told that they've got to look inside and find their identity. So family identity doesn't matter much, but you can give them that. From the time they're really little, give them a strong family identity. Because if you don't, one of the places that they're going to find a strong, or in fact, the main place is social media. Because they live in that, and we discussed this yesterday with the parents for older children, the whole social media comparator culture and the YouTube influencers and all this is going to tell them, that's who you are. This is how you must look. This is how you must act. And if you haven't given them an identity, that is what will guide them. Or, as we've already talked about, schools and friends will say, you've got to find a gender label. I've talked to year grade or year 7 kids who would say, I like girls and I like boys. I guess I'm a bisexual. And I would say, you like girls, or even I love girls and I love boys. You love boys and you love girls. You know what that's called? Friendship. We need to talk to our children. They don't need a label based on sex or gender, because you got to talk to them early that there is an identity that they are given that is far more important and overarching and significant, and nothing else matters. It answers the question of who am I, whose am I, who says so, and what makes it so special. From the time they're little, you remember we talked in the earlier slide about male, female, in the womb, the uterus. That is the time you can talk about Genesis, talk about creation, talk about how God made man and woman in his image. They were happy in the Garden of Eden till we turned away. And talk to them about Psalm 139. Find a good picture book Bible. Read them stories. Tell them that God made them and that makes them special. And it's even more special because Jesus came and died for them. And I don't know whether there's anyone here who's a single parent, maybe a mother with the father not around, and kids are like God the Father. But the point is, they know that they have a father who's far superior to even the best father here. And we can go up to, when I talk to young ones and I say, in big classes, there may be some of you who don't have a daddy, but you got the only daddy who matters, the daddy, God, who created the stars and named them. And you can go up to him and go, hi, daddy. Isn't that lovely? Give them that and talk to them about how precious their body is. Read 1 Corinthians 6. Doesn't matter if they're young and they don't understand all the big words, but talk to them about how, their body belongs to Jesus. Their body is the home of the Holy Spirit, and how they should honor and glorify God in their body and in the bodies of people they are interacting with, their friends, how they honor your body. You honor your friend's body. You respect your friend's body. So you ask before you grab a toy from a friend. And so that's that early consent training. But it's really more than consent. It's about other-focused loving and caring, and you are the ones who can teach them that. So we talked about the body and identity. Now, here's something really important about the brain of your kids. The brain of your kids is in very rapid development. Point 1. What goes into the brain will affect brain development. So no excuses. You need to know, especially if you're giving your kid a smartphone. The best advice is not before 13 years of age. Why? You protect your kids when you send them to the playground. You give them a smartphone. You might as well be handing them the keys to a dungeon full of predators and pornography. If you do, and we don't have time to go into it in detail, but if and when you give a smartphone, you need to monitor, you need to know what apps, you need to have a social media contract. All this is in our book that is called Talking Sex by the Book, which is a book that talks about talking sex from age group like 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, and 10 to 14 and 15 and over. And we talk about, taking cyber safety measures. Because the brain is so vulnerable. But not just that. All parts of the brain don't grow at the same rate. We have what we call, and here again, I told you I'm using the terminology I use with young people, and it's the same terminology we use in Birds and Bees by the Book. And we talk of a downstairs brain and an upstairs brain. The downstairs brain is the emotional brain. So I put that up and we talk about what do you mean by emotions? When do you cry? When do you get happy? When do you sort of laugh or get angry? And what do you do when you get angry? And then we talk about, primary schoolers, I will bop him in the face when I'm angry. No filters. So then we talk about why emotions in young people are played out so quickly. It's because the emotional brain, the downstairs brain, erupts early in preteens, in puberty. But the upstairs brain, the self-control, decision-making brain, doesn't mature till the mid-20s. So what you got is a brain that acts on emotion. So you as parents need to be the ones who give good food. And again, as I said, this is a slide I use with young people to explain just that. What are you feeding? And we talk about social media. And what are your friends showing you? It's an introduction to possible porn discussion. What kind of things are you hearing in the playground? What kind of things are you watching on television? You need to know. You need to monitor because it will affect their brain. Now, I want to talk to you for a few moments about really bad brain food. And you may be thinking, my little darling's really young. He or she will never be exposed to pornography. Think again. As I said, average age of first porn exposure is 10 years and dropping. They don't necessarily go looking for it. Often it's just an accidental, one of those things that pops up on the side and the kid just clicks on it and it's there. Little anecdote again. A little boy in year 5. This was one of the talks. I don't do too many for year 5, 6, but no, 5. I do 6 and 7, but year 5, when I did one, he put his hand up and he said, I had to do, I don't know whether he called it a project or whatever for school. And I went to my computer and I looked for pretty pussycats. Where do you think he went? Direct to a porn site. And he said, I had all these girls without clothes dancing around. And, that's how easy it is for your child to get into a porn site. Another parent who once told me that her child came home and gave a story of someone showing her pictures of sex between a human and an animal. And she was traumatized, really traumatized. Pornography is out there. And, you can't say my child is safe. You can't keep them safe. You can set all the, filters on your computers. You can do it. But in the playground out there, somebody could show them. And why is it so bad? Because it gets into their brains. Remember, emotional brain. Children are naturally curious. Sex is stimulating. In our book, we say you get giggly and wiggly. And kids understand that. So it is something, and they will want to know more. They're curious. You can't just say it will not happen. So what should you do? The first thing is you need to be the educator. Now, you don't have to go into the details of what pornography is. All you need to say, and we do this in our little book, Learning About Pornography, all you got to say is, if somebody shows you a picture of people without clothes or, little clothes and doing things that makes you feel wiggly and giggly or ew, then just say, I don't like this. Say no. Just go away, because if they stay, then the curiosity makes them want to watch more. So say no, go away, and thirdly, always talk to someone. Now, why is this? Say no, because give them a language. I encourage parents to even practice saying, so if somebody shows you something that makes you wiggly and giggly, what are you going to do? I do this with primary schoolers. Say no. Then what? Go away. Then what? You got to talk to your teacher, or you talk to teacher or mommy and daddy. You know why? Because those get in the brain and take over the wiring and form like little video clips in the brain. So it's so important, and not just a one-off conversation. You need to check with your kids as they grow up to know what sort of things that they are being exposed to. And if anything happens, don't be afraid to go to school and talk to the teachers and the counselors. And this applies for gender, porn, anything. You as a parent have a right to know what your kids are being taught and who is being brought in to teach them. It is your right. Finally, very quickly, we need to talk to our kids early about sexuality. See, they're just about beginning to feel desires. And they talk about having crushes. Don't get overwhelmed if your child is kind of talking about having a girlfriend or a boyfriend. They're picking it up from TV. Just tell them that that's okay. It's part of growing up. It's like when you are a big person, you will understand how like mommy and daddy feel for each other. It's chemical. It's the body waking up with testosterone. As they get a little bit older, they will talk about, having romantic feelings, different chemicals, dopamine. And again, very important thing here is the differentiation between love and those little crushes and non-sexual intimate friendships. Like I told you earlier, the little kid who says I'm bisexual because I like boys and girls. It's not about sex. It's friendship. Role model, discuss, and show them that friendship is important, that sex can wait, that just because two girls, I have even had a little girl come and tell me, I love my bestie. Oh, I guess I'm going to be a lesbian. You're friends with your bestie, and teach them early that sexual intimacy, like with what mommy and daddy had to make you, is something that glues people together. Go back and read Genesis. Naked and no shame, one flesh. It binds people. In our book, we have this little boy watching mommy and daddy holding hands, and he's thinking of a pot of glue, that they're stuck together. Talk to them about, daddy, mommy love each other and hug each other. And again, the difference between that and friendship, intimacy, about people hugging each other at church. Now that's not different to mommy and daddy hugging each other. Give them examples, talk to them, and talk early before they hear from someone else. But pulling things together, once you've done all this, don't be afraid and anxious. Leave your kids to God. Pray with them, pray for them, and know that we are forgiven sinners and we are shown mercy, and Christ Jesus displays his immense patience, mercy, and patience, which we too can show our children. So if something were to happen, pornography, a gender label, some question, please don't freak. Take a deep breath, count to 10, and then deal with the issue gently with mercy and patience. In closing, let me just tell you quickly a little bit about our books. As I've told you, Birds and Bees by the Book is the one best for the little ones. However, if you've got ones who are heading into puberty, I would recommend Growing Up by the Book, because it is a book that talks about puberty, and there's never been a time when it's been more important to talk to kids about healthy puberty, that bodies look different. You don't have to be comfortable in the body you are. It is the body God has given you. No one is born in the wrong body. You cannot have a boy body and a girl brain. It is not a physiological, biological, neurological possibility. I'm speaking research here. Teen sex is probably for the older ones, 15 plus. I really recommend Talking Sex by the Book. It's a book that we put together as to stand over the others for parents to sort of take. It's a book you get when your kids are littlies and then kind of use it as a reference as they grow. Best Sex for Life is, hey, just to bring a bit of zing into your married life, suggested Christmas presents. So that's my email for anyone who likes to get in touch, and my website and my Twitter handle. I will stop here if that's okay, Ben, and we will go into Q&A. So I will stop share, and I am all yours to answer everything you ever wanted to ask a sexologist.
Now, Dr. Pat, Ben has had to head out for something that's come up, but I'm taking his place.
Who am I talking to? I'm going to only see your chin.
I'll come down a bit. Can you see me now? I'm Richard Wilson. I'm the other pastor at Valley Presbyterian.
We've been
Ben
talking.
had to duck out, but we've got a couple of questions that have popped up on Slido, so we might start with those if that's okay.
Sure. Let's go.
So you said 90% grow out of wanting to be a boy, I guess the opposite sex. Can you point to some research as an example, as a reference?
How about you email me? There's a whole lot of research. There's a really good website called Transgender Trend. If anyone's writing it down, Transgender Trend. Another great website called GenSpect, GenSpect. If you've got your computer, you could even, your phone, you could even check that out. GenSpect has one page which has all the statistics on everything to do with the whole thing that's happening with children. The person who, if you want a name to look at, the person who did a lot of work in that is a professor, a very senior professor called Ken Zucker, Zucker. But if you want any more, you got my email. Send me an email and I'm happy to send you the research. GenSpect research is the research page, gives you excellent information.
Dr. Pat, is it okay if we make that email address known across the church?
Sure.
Yep. Okay.
Sure. Everybody can email me. I just sit up all night and answer your emails. Even I get up at 4:30, that's fine.
Okay, there's another question. What if, as parents, you're not having great sex, and sex is a difficult topic to talk about in your home as a point of tension?
Yeah, the first thing I would recommend is, as Christian parents, if we are not having sex, then we need to just be aware that sex is a part of male-female in marriage. 1 Corinthians 7. husband, your body belongs to wife, wife, your body belongs to husband. However, we live in a broken world, and therefore things get really, really messed up. The first thing I would say is, if you're uncomfortable with your relationship as husband and wife, especially if there's any aspect of abuse, and I'm not necessarily saying, physical, even sexual abuse of any type. And this is sadly in and outside the church, often driven by porn use, where the man who watches porn has very pornified expectations of sexual behavior. I know I'm veering into marriage counseling, the marriage session here, but it's really important that we seek help. Now, you're obviously in a church where people are open to talk. So talk to your pastor, talk to an older friend, somebody. Don't stay in this place of discomfort. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is, yes, if your experience of sexuality is uncomfortable, it is difficult to talk about it. But try break through that barrier by using the resources, because sex as God created it, we know, is a good, healthy, wonderful gift. Creation to new creation. Now, we won't go into that now, but hey, you may want to listen. Richard, we have, yes, the Friday one taped, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. So that one, we talked a little bit about the holistic nature of beauty of sex. So you might want to listen to that one also. I think that will help. I'm sorry, I made you sit on the ground.
No, that's all right. That way you can see my face.
Yeah, so that's what I would recommend. But just break through that, talk to someone, break through it, use the resources.
Sure. Were there any other live questions that people wanted to ask? Parenting? Yeah, Jace?
So age 13 for a phone, I'm assuming that's based on brain development. And but you did actually also mention that there would be a sort of a peer group pressure, because a lot of the friends will already have phones anyway. So is there any sort of perhaps neat strategies of being able to combat that other than just talking about things when they come up?
Yeah, I didn't quite get the last bit of it, but I think I get the
Any strategies that can be used to help with that?
General. Firstly, the research is based on, if you're taking down notes, there's a researcher by the name of Jean Twenge. I think she's Jean, Twenge. She has worked, she and her team have worked considerably, quite a bit of research on social media use and anxiety and depression. And they find a clear kind of rise with anything over about 2 hours a day, I think, of use. And I showed that graph on Friday to the parents who were there on Friday. So there's a clear relationship between social media use and the brain, anxiety, depression. And as you rightly said, this is a developing brain. Now, the important thing here is, yes, mommy, everybody has a phone. You know what? Actually, not everybody has. So what I tell people is, get on there and talk to the other parents. Actually get a kind of parent action here and contact other parents, encourage them to join you in maintaining these boundaries where your children are concerned. You see, my friends have it, it's not an excuse. They have 1,000 friends, but only 2 and sometimes 1 parent. Be the parent. Set the boundaries. Even if you give them a phone, know what apps there are. I call it an open phone policy. If your kid has an app on the phone and they don't want to talk to you, take it off. It shouldn't be there. With a younger child, no passwords. Be one of their friends on their sites. If they don't want you, hard luck. That's part of the conditions of the contract. There is no, you can't take a chance here. It's far too important, because they get so easily sucked into, online Gaming, where gaming leads? One, chat rooms. In chat rooms, they meet all sorts of people. So what do you know whom they're talking to? And second, a lot of the gaming and fandoms and things that these kids are involved in. And I love it when I talk to kids and they go, she's actually using those words. Yeah. So when they what happens is they get sucked into using avatars and they live their avatar, developing brain. Fantasies are part of the young brain. Like my Kamal, hey, you saw him. My Kamal wanted to be Superman when he was little. So we bought him a Superman cloak. We didn't take him to the top of a building and push him off and say, you're Superman, fly. But kids that age, they have fantasies. So they develop avatars. And if that is being then given also education that you can be who you want, you'll have little girls who want to be boys, having boy avatars and actually beginning to feel that is who I am. So you need to know. And I could go on forever, but those are just some reasons. I know parents, Christian and otherwise, who give kids what we would call a dumb phone. Dumb as in D-U-M-B, dumb phone, which they can make calls on and maybe send texts. Why do you need social media on your phone? They need to contact you in an emergency and maybe text someone. So, and then set an age. And there are parents who are doing it. You won't be the only one.
Thanks. That was a great answer. Any other questions before we finish up?
Is there a suggested age for this dumb phone? If the smartphone's not till 13.
You make the decision. And
Otherwise-
based on one, how mature you think your child is, and two, the necessity. Sometimes, when I speak in country parishes, kids are traveling distances. They need to be able to contact. So they give a smaller child and train them how to use it. So it's up to you. Maturity of your kids. Can they make wise decisions just around home? Are they making wise decisions on like taking the garbage out or, making their bed or simple things like that? And you say, if you're not responsible with this, how do you expect me to trust you with the phone? So build good habits.
Very good.
I guess on the phone, auditing sort of front. Can you hear me? Okay.
Sorry, I didn't get that one, Richard.
On the home auditing front.
To what extent should we audit their phone use? For example, we don't listen in on their conversation with friends in the playground. So should we be reading messages between the same friends on their phone and that sort of thing?
Again, I would say it very much depends on your child and how you can sense their responsibility and how they are interacting with friends. You have a right to occasionally check. You need to say, look, I'm going to do spot checks. Just as when I pick you up from the playground, I like to know who you've been playing with. I need to spot check whom you're talking to on the phone. That's one very important thing to do. The other really important thing is watch for mood changes in your child. A child who shows any kind of mood change, your brain should immediately pick up, is something happening, something online. Is this child seeing pornography? Is somebody grooming them? Is somebody cyberbullying them? These are the common things that cause kids to get a bit freaked out. But if you haven't warned them, you haven't talked to them, you know what happens? They feel ashamed and guilty, so they won't come to you. They just carry and internalize the guilt. And you know what? They get more on social media. They get into social media, that sucks them into really dark places. So they come around, take away message. You are a parent, be a parent, talk early, be proactive, use what resources we have. Don't be afraid. Your kids want to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Fabulous. I think we're done, Dr. Pat. That was just some amazing input. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and learning with us. I'm feeling blessed myself. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'm really sorry I couldn't be with you. What part of Victoria are you in?
We're in Melbourne. We're in the northern suburbs, out on the edge.
Northern suburbs.
Yeah, in the
Okay.
northeast. Yeah,
Sorry I couldn't be with you, but such is life in these days, huh?
That's all
Especially
right.
for a 75-year-old arthritic.
Thanks, Dr. Pat. I'll hit the stop record button, and we'll make this available through our YouTube channel. Are you okay with that?
I'm fine. Just send me a link so I can see how stupid I look. Okay.
Terrific. All
God
right.
bless
Thank you
you
very
all.
much. No
God
worries.
bless.
Okay. End meeting for all.